Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 10th, and right now we're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You can see the big ridge over the area, keeping us nice and clear across the region today, but it is coming with a price. There is the offshore winds going on. We've got quite a bit of smoke west of the Cascades. Take a look at that here in some detail. Thermal trough is evident here, as you can see some of this moisture moving up from ex-tropical system K, and might even move over the area tomorrow morning. Even a slight chance of a lightning strike some places across some of the higher terrain, maybe western Washington up through southwest BC. We'll look at that here in a moment. But diving right into things here, you can see this fire is blown up pretty well. This is just north of Highway 2, a very prolific smoke producer here. Hopefully this thing does not continue to grow and maybe its fuel source is limited and it's going to die out here soon, but this is generally not a good sign. This fire is developed pretty rapidly, and you can see the amount of smoke down here we're dealing with across Portland, slowly drifting northward. Strong east winds going on right now. Goat Rock's fire down here southeast of Mount Rainier, pumping out some pretty decent smoke as well. Some of the smoke should be increasing across Puget Sound as we go today. We'll take a look at that also. Now, taking a look at Portland, you know who you are if you need to watch out for evacuation procedures here coming up. And again, be careful, just don't be the one that starts that big fire right now. As you can see, that's what the big risk is these fires that kick up west of the slopes of the Cascades here coming up in the next day or so. The good news is by Monday afternoon, we should be lessening our fire danger here west of the Cascades for Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia as we get some onshore flow. Looking at Seattle yesterday, 78, average high was 74, nowhere near the high temperature set back in 1963. We're going to get pretty warm today. I don't think we're going to get to that 91. That smoke layer is probably going to inhibit our high temperatures to the upper 80s, I would think, today for Seattle. And you can see this enhanced risk of fire does extend up towards Seattle, includes much of western Washington, Oregon, and the Cascades west slopes especially, as we're all well aware of. You can see the air quality index looking at right now. Yesterday we had quite a bit of greens around the Puget Sound. Now look, we've got some downright unhealthy air out there. And especially if this fire north of Highway 2 continues to produce smoke like that's really going to deteriorate the conditions, mainly north of Seattle coming up here. And then again, there's some north low-level flow here that could bring some smoke all the way down into Seattle from that fire as well. Plus, the Stampede Gap is going to be introducing more fire that could move down to the surface this afternoon and evening as well. This was looking at my house yesterday. Check this out, how quickly this air deteriorated around the house. Then we caught a break last night for a bit, and now look, it's quickly returning this morning here, already worse than it was yesterday, and that should continue to increase this, at least through this afternoon, maybe through this evening as well, before we start to turn southerly a bit more tomorrow. But that doesn't mean we're going to kick the smoke out right away. Now, taking a look here, this is the hot, dry, windy index. You can see for some of western Oregon, it does relax a bit, but it's still pretty high. And you can see through the gorge here, Stampede Gap, conditions are pretty high as well as some of the areas up towards that new fire start up here. You know, the conditions were ripe for that fire formation out there. So as we go through the day today, you'll notice finally it starts to wane a bit as we go on into tomorrow morning. We kind of get a little bit of a feature moving through here. We'll look at that here in a moment. And you can see by Monday morning, look at this, we finally start to relax these fire conditions across the area. We're going to start some onshore flow as we go through the day Monday. And then for the most part, our adventure here west of the Cascades should be over fire-wise, even though that fire could still be kicking in the Cascade foothills there, but it would be shunted off to the west. It's immediate smoke. So how we're looking here at the European, this is hot off the presses here, and you can see that thermal trough plainly off our coastline here, bringing us a very warm day today and tomorrow. And eventually it's going to kick through on Monday. And you can kind of see that thermal trough as it shifts off east of the Cascades a bit here. And that's what usually brings an end to our heat waves here. The thermal trough moves over. Can still lead to some more warm weather east of the Cascades, however. Now checking out here, this is the HER 3KM 12Z run. I just want to show you this. This is 8 meters above the ground level here. So if we look at that, you can see all the smoke down here through western Oregon here. And you actually see this increases during the day for some of the Puget Sound coming through the Stampede Gap here. You can see it all the way up through just north of Everett. But, all bets are off with that fire going on right now here across the west slopes. It's going to just add to the misery of the smoke that goes on today. But you can see by tomorrow morning, we start to kick some of that surface smoke and at least hold it at bay over the Cascades. I mean, look at all this smoke across the Oregon Cascades. Incredible. Pretty darn smoky eastern Washington as well, Spokane. But you at least see that now we start to shunt this smoke off to the west by the time we get into Monday morning here, and it should be just mainly smoke aloft at this point before we really clear things out by Monday afternoon. So at least it's not going to be a long-lived event. Now here we're looking at 80-meter winds. You can plainly see all these east winds roaring across the Cascades through the gaps and everything. You can see the Stampede Gap is active today, continuing on through this afternoon. And let's see when this wind switches to the south through the Puget Sound. Looks like probably just after midnight. So you're probably going to go to bed and then wake up and have some southerly flow and bring some relief across the area tomorrow. Now, taking a look here, this little feature is going to move across the area tonight, later tonight. So here we go on in through Sunday evening, and you can see the HRRR is actually painting, kind of a signal here for a couple thunderstorms rolling across the Olympic Mountains towards Vancouver Island. I don't know that this is going to spawn a thunderstorm over the Puget Sound or anything, but you can see that there is a signal that the European was actually showing a little bit of something over the Olympic Mountains as well. So something to watch through Sunday morning. Hopefully it doesn't kick off any more fires, but we may hear a rumble of thunder, especially across the higher terrain out in the Olympic Peninsula here, and maybe even up towards southwest BC, northern interior, then again across the Cascades as we go through Sunday morning. That system finally moves up and out of here. By the time we get to Monday morning, there may be another little feature coming through Monday later in the morning or early morning that might move across the Cascades as well. We'll take a look at that one tomorrow. Now here we're looking at yesterday's European. Here is the 0Z. Let's go ahead and play this out. We're looking at the extended here a little bit. You can see the end of our heat wave there, and then you can see a trough kind of swing by to the north here through British Columbia. Then you can see the European's been, going rounds here with this trough across the Gulf of Alaska here, moving into BC, and you can see it set up over the Pacific Northwest here. So it's been back and forth with the strength of this trough across Pacific Northwest. It's still kind of fantasy right now. GFS has been hinting at a trough at this time range as well. So there may be something to it, something to watch here. As you can see, this ridge kind of allows this trough to dig out over the Pacific Northwest. So fingers crossed right now, but no definite signal. Nothing to get too excited about yet, but it is a fantasy forecast for now. Now looking at the GFS is the 06Z. 18,000 feet, 500 millibars. There goes the end of our big ridge here across Pacific Northwest. And then as we go on in through the mid and later next week, you can see that trough kind of carving out as we go in towards next week, and the GFS painting that trough over the area as well here about hour 200. So we're not that far out, but there is a signal for a trough potentially next weekend, and a bit of a ridge. And a transient one moves through the following week, but we're getting way too far out in the GFS. But I sometimes like to look, as you can see, the Fantasyland GFS here carving a big trough out over the Gulf of Alaska there. Entertainment purposes only there. Portland, you can see, I mean, they've got so much smoke around. It's obviously going to take a bite out of these high temperatures, which still should be a pretty warm day today before we start to cool down mid and on in through next week. And that smoke will be kicked out of here. It's going to be nice and glorious. So it'll be enjoyable. Now here's Tri-Cities. You can see up towards 90 degrees the next 3-4 days through Tuesday before a gradual cool down as we go through mid-week coming up here. Dealing with some pretty smoky conditions out there as well. Seattle, Tacoma, calling for 91, but we're probably not going to get there. I think we're looking more like an 88-degree day probably today. This high smoke around as well as some surface smoke around during the day today is definitely going to take a bite out of those temperatures before we start to bring some nice clean air back in here through Monday and mid next week. And these are just be great days. I mean, look at this, low 70s, some sunshine. Not crazy humidity values. What a great time to be in the Pacific Northwest there. Look at the Seattle-Tacoma extended. This is the European ensemble runs. All 50 ensemble members here just left to run at their own discretion. And you can see, look at the control run on the European here. Showed an inch of rain in a 24-hour period for Seattle. What a glorious system that would be. Although then you start to look at the rest of the ensemble members here, and you can see you temper your enthusiasm quite rapidly here. Although number 50, I mean, you could see that. Look at that, and 1.7 inches in a 24-hour period. But of course, you can see there's plenty of runs in here, even a lot with no precipitation at all, some with just very light amounts here. Just would be a weak frontal system moving through the area. But it's something to watch here as we go on in through next weekend towards the early portion of the following week here. At least it's something to look at for now. Now, looking at the GFS, though, you can kind of see it's much more scattered here as we go. It kind of shows the potential for some rainfall, maybe a system coming through, but you can see precipitation values are quite light with almost every single one of these ensemble runs, save maybe one, number 30 there, as you can see, and then maybe something off in the future as well. So not great model agreement, but it does show some kind of trough in there, so we'll continue to watch that. But yeah, that fire is very concerning here, blowing up here on the west slopes of the Cascades. This is just north of Highway 2. You'll probably see this plume of smoke moving across the Puget Sound here shortly, if not already. As you can see, yeah, it's already starting to kick out towards the Everett here as we go. And some of the HUR was actually showing some of the smoke getting caught up from the Goat Rocks fire here into the Stampede Gap, flowing into the Puget Sound. So it looks like there is a potential for the surface smoke to increase during the day today. And you can see this, this layer of smoke here is going to block out all kinds of sunshine. It's going to really throw a monkey wrench into the forecast high temperatures across the area down here across Willamette Valley, Portland, and we'll see how far this drifts northward. But we do have some pretty strong easterly flow still going on here, so I'm not sure the progress on that. But you can see the smoke pretty much everywhere. The good thing is that we're going to clear out tomorrow quite nicely here. At least give us some relief. I shouldn't say nicely until Monday, though. We're going to get some pretty good onshore flow on Monday. So, yeah, hopefully you guys, watch out if you're up in this area. It's just north of Highway 2 at this point. Hopefully this doesn't get, hopefully this starts dying off quite rapidly here. But this does not look good, folks. This fire went pretty quickly, and there's probably a lot of fuel in that area out there. Maybe they can get it contained quickly, or maybe it's just in a place where the fuel is limited. Hopefully that's the case. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Feeling a little bit better day to day here. I still don't have my full energy back yet. I figure my body's still trying to work out the infection I had from that medical procedure. And yeah, so I'll just keep doing these and daily as per usual. It's kind of therapeutic, kind of gives me a barometer of where I am health-wise. But yeah, hope you guys are having a good day, and we'll go ahead and do this again tomorrow. Hopefully by this time tomorrow, some of the smoke will be shunted out of our area, and maybe we'll even talk about a couple thunderstorms moving across the region here. And then we'll get back to some good old-fashioned northwest weather here, and then maybe even start tracking a system here as we go through next weekend. Fingers crossed. So anyway, have a good day, and I will talk to you guys later.